Zoom in here and it says, compliments of Her Royal Highness.
She really murdered that metaphor, didn't she? It went on and on and on.
You know, I mean, she used to be on Deal or No Deal. Look, she was on Deal or No Deal.
Yeah, that's right.
And then the wife convinces you to leave the royal family. Like, I'm out. I don't need you guys. Which is crazy, because don't you just get free money?
Oh, we want our privacy and safety, but we'll go be at Beyonce concerts and do whatever we want. Oh, look at him.
Reopen British markets for American companies. All that Britain demands in return is that we keep these two.
No! No! I refuse! I'm sick of it!
I find it a little bit cringe to give a gift to a close friend and sign it Her Royal Highness.
They won't let me call myself Her Royal Highness anymore, but I'm going to put it all over my stationery and on the gifts that I give to my friends.
She's trying to sell herself as this wholesome mother who's baking cookies and making tea for the rest of the family.
But they can't make money off the royal family. There was like photos with her and Prince Andrew way back in the day when she was like in her early 20s.
She married for money. It's very clear she bagged the elephant. She was thrilled she became a, quote, princess.
I knew her a bit before she met Harry. She was nothing like that. She didn't speak like that. Her mannerisms weren't like that. She's all fake.
As opposed to, oh my gosh, I worked so hard.
And she also is pretending that she's crying. There isn't a tear in sight. It's an actor's trick.
If you haven't noticed, he's very, very handsome.
He's also a fox.
And Meghan's accepting all these compliments. I know I'm great, aren't I?
The beginning of that clip where she's like, it's so inauthentic.
But you're the same.
You're the same.
Like, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Like, guys, you don't gotta do this. Please, I'm begging you to stop.
At first, it sounded like just another headline. Meghan Markle facing backlash. That's not new. But this time, something felt different. The tone, the timing. And then the whispers turned into something louder, stronger, official. Because what's happening now isn't gossip. It's not speculation. It's the first serious political move to formally strip Meghan of her royal title. Not maybe. Not one day. Parliament is moving. And for the first time since she left the monarchy, Meghan's HRH status may be gone. For good. Let that sink in.
And now, Prince Harry's wife is surprising folks yet again.
Why even in private? She's using that full title, Her Royal Highness.
I would never refer to myself as Her Royal Highness.
We're not talking about social media outrage or a royal expert throwing shade on morning television. This is the House of Lords. Titles Deprivation Act. A law that was last used against royals who sided with the enemy in World War I. Now it's being dusted off, and Meghan's name is at the center of it. That's how far things have gone. And what triggered this sudden escalation? Podcast. Or more specifically, a gift basket. Inside it, a note signed off as, Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Sussex. And that one small detail sent a very loud message. Meghan is still using the title, even after promising Queen Elizabeth she wouldn't.
It's not a financial thing. Working royals do not profit. They do not use their names to make money. It's an honor to have an HRH. So the fact that she's continued to use this HRH when they've been instructed not to, I think is absolutely infuriating in Buckingham Palace. It was agreed with Queen Elizabeth that they will not use the HRH title. That is a long-standing precedent, and there's good reason for it. Basically, the HRH is only given to working royals and senior members of the royal family.
To many in the UK, that wasn't just disrespectful, it was deliberate. A slap in the face to an institution she walked away from, yet continues to profit off of. Because let's be real, that title isn't ceremonial. It's currency. It's what gives Meghan leverage in Hollywood with brands in backdoor meetings where being royal still dazzles. Strip it away and the illusion cracks. And now, with support building across Parliament, and even among the public in Sussex itself, that title isn't just in jeopardy. It's already halfway out the door. This isn't drama. It's history. And if the next few weeks unfold the way insiders are predicting, Meghan Markle could soon be facing the one consequence she never thought possible, being officially erased from the royal family's inner circle, title and all.
King Charles on his way out, Prince William is expected to take over the crown. And apparently at the top of his list is to say, peace out, Meghan, you're done. And he plans to formally strip Meghan Markle of her royal title.
The match that lit this constitutional firestorm? Petition. But not the kind that floats around on social media for clout. This one was drafted inside the halls of British power by members of Parliament who've had enough. It didn't come with dramatic press releases or viral campaigns. It slipped in quietly, strategically, but its impact? Massive. The petition calls for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle to be stripped of their remaining royal titles under the Titles Deprivation Act of 1917. That's not symbolic. That's not a warning shot. That's the nuclear option. A royal severing that hasn't been used in over a century. Last time it happened, it was because royals sided with Britain's enemies during a world war. Now, Meghan's podcast etiquette and the perception that she's been title laundering for profit is being treated with the same level of institutional seriousness. And here's where it gets even more brutal. It's not just about Meghan anymore. The entire Sussex brand is under fire. Lawmakers are openly asking why someone who no longer serves the monarchy, who lives in California, who regularly criticizes the royal family, is still using a title meant to represent the crown. And if you think this is all happening in the background, think again. The push is growing in both the House of Lords and the House of Commons. That means it's not just one rogue MP making noise. It's becoming bipartisan consensus. Quiet, powerful, and lethal to Meghan's brand.
Now, a staggering 2/3 of Brits are calling for Harry and Meghan to be stripped of their HR8 titles.
See, it's beyond anything I've ever seen.
He's a duplicitous, self-centered, vile, disloyal hypocrite.
Why now? Because Meghan's actions are being seen not just as disrespectful, but as dangerously strategic. Every podcast, every brand deal, every media move seems to come stamped with her royal identity, even after she agreed in no uncertain terms to stop. And for a monarchy that runs on tradition and image, this isn't just annoying. It's a direct threat to the institution's credibility. That's why this petition has teeth. Because it's not reacting to drama, it's responding to patterned defiance. If Parliament moves forward and passes this, Meghan doesn't just lose her title. She loses the last trace of royal legitimacy that connects her to the House of Windsor. And for an empire built on image, that loss could be irreversible. If anyone had doubts about how personal this title battle really is, they didn't have to look far. Because while King Charles maintains his signature stoic silence, insiders say Prince William isn't hiding how he feels. No statements, no objections, just quiet approval. And when it comes to royal politics, silence can speak louder than scandal. Sources close to the palace say William has zero interest in defending Harry and Meghan. In fact, behind the scenes, he's reportedly giving the petition a silent thumbs up. Why? Because to him, this isn't just a political nuisance, it's deeply personal.
When the stakes are this high, does it make more sense to hear our story from us?
Oh, shut up. What do you mean the stakes are this high? Who do you think you are? Other than a latte-munching imbecile living in luxury in California while the rest of the world's a cost of living crisis, moaning and whining about an institution which gave you the titles on which you now trade millions of dollars. What are you talking about? What stakes?
Remember, it wasn't just the monarchy that Meghan and Harry publicly criticized. It was William. It was Kate. It was the very family dynamic that once held the country together during tragedy. From that now infamous Oprah interview to the Netflix docuseries In Spare, William was painted as cold, controlling, and complicit. Meghan's camp framed her experience as being in the trenches, while royal staff whispered that she was living in luxury, treated like a queen long before earning it. And for William, who watched his brother torch every bridge in front of cameras, this latest chapter feels like poetic justice. The idea that Meghan is still using the HRH title, after formally agreeing not to, is reportedly infuriating to William, especially considering that he and Kate have walked the tightrope of public scrutiny with discipline, avoiding profit-driven moves, and maintaining the dignity expected of senior royals. Meanwhile, Meghan sends a podcast host a thank you gift, signed Her Royal Highness. For William, that's not just inappropriate, that's war. And here's what makes it even more pointed. William doesn't need to speak. By staying out of the spotlight and letting Parliament move, he keeps the royal family clean while the system enforces consequences. It's smart, strategic, and it shows how over this family feud he really is. No more diplomacy, no more olive branches. William knows exactly what's at stake, and according to palace insiders, he wants the titles gone.
Major breaking news out of London. Buckingham Palace announcing Harry and Meghan will no longer formally represent the Queen. That means they will no longer receive public funds and they will stop using their royal titles. Those changes will take effect this spring.
Not for revenge, but to protect the crown. And if Parliament finishes what William quietly supports, that's not just a royal message, it's a personal reckoning. It was supposed to be harmless. A polished, PR-friendly podcast appearance with a soft-spoken host, gentle questions, and all the usual warmth Meghan Markle is known for. But one tiny detail undid the entire performance. It wasn't something she said, it was something she sent. A basket. Thank you gift. Small curated gesture from Meghan herself. But on the card, printed clearly in elegant type, with the compliments of Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Sussex. And just like that, the room exploded. To the casual American listener, it may have meant nothing, but to Britain, it was a declaration, a direct contradiction of the agreement made years ago between the Sussexes and Queen Elizabeth. When Meghan and Harry stepped back from their royal duties, it was publicly stated they would no longer use the HRH titles. It was a compromise, a respectful middle ground. They could still be the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, but without the formal styling that comes with representing the crown. Meghan knew this. Harry agreed to it. And yet, here it was. Her Royal Highness, in ink. On record, royal watchers didn't miss it, and neither did Parliament, because this wasn't just a forgotten detail, it was an active choice, the kind of thing that gets noticed in diplomatic circles and among constitutional scholars. And let's be honest, it didn't help that this came on the heels of a BBC interview in which Harry pleaded for security, made veiled criticisms of the monarchy, and once again painted himself as a misunderstood victim. The timing was catastrophic. It looked like Harry was asking for protection, while Meghan was still cashing in on the royal brand. That basket became symbolic, not just of entitlement, but of defiance, and the backlash came swiftly.
Now, Meghan, just last week, she did her first long-form sit-down podcast interview. She showed a basket that she had sent to the host of the podcast as a thank you for allowing her to come on. And you can kind of zoom in here, and it says, "With compliments of Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Sussex."
British talk shows erupted. MPs started asking questions. How many other times has she used the title in private, on contracts, in business? How many doors have been opened because she still signs off as royalty? What the public saw as a branding choice, lawmakers saw as a breach of trust, and possibly a violation of the agreement, made with the crown. That's when it became clear. This wasn't just a PR problem. It was grounds for action. The most telling part of this whole saga isn't the palace reaction. It's not even Parliament's sudden aggression. It's the people, the Brits who once mourned with Harry after Diana's death, who stood in the rain cheering him on during his wedding, who watched Meghan walk into Windsor Castle like a modern-day fairy tale. They've had enough. And it's not just London tabloids stirring the pot. It's ordinary citizens from Sussex to Scotland, furious that the titles tied to their country, their history, are being dragged through the California mud. A new poll shows that 62% of the British public want Harry and Meghan's titles gone. Among older voters and conservatives, it jumps to over 70%. And here's the kicker. Even Labour supporters, who've historically been more forgiving of the Sussexes, are saying they've crossed the line. One woman from Sussex, Harry's own dukedom, summed it up in a single sentence. He doesn't represent us anymore. He represents himself, and that truth is hitting hard, because the titles weren't supposed to be personal trophies. They were meant to symbolize service, duty, and loyalty to the monarchy. Instead, critics say, Harry and Meghan turned those titles into marketing tools. Netflix deals, memoirs, celebrity events, all stamped Duke and Duchess, not Harry and Meghan. Not two American residents living in Montecito, but royalty. And while the couple insists they step back from royal life to protect their peace, what the UK sees is something very different. A brand empire built on royal bloodline, but aimed squarely at the monarchy's weakest spots. Even in Sussex, where Harry technically still holds his title, the reaction has been sharp. Thousands have already signed the petition. Letters are pouring into MPs.
But of course, the real measure of success for both of them will be the same as it always has been. How much damage can they inflict on our royal family, on our monarchy? Said it before, I'll say it again tonight. King Charles should strip them of all their remaining titles and cast them out from any connection to the royal family. How could any of them trust them, as far as they could throw them? Because without it, they're just whining millennial windbags with a permanent victim complex, knowing that victimhood is what makes them all the money.
What began as passive disapproval has transformed into active political momentum. British people aren't just venting online anymore. They're demanding action. And Parliament is listening. Because in the UK, titles aren't accessories. They're sacred. And watching them be used, rebranded, and sold to the highest bidder, that's not just cringe. It's offensive. For many, this isn't about punishing Harry and Meghan. It's about preserving what the monarchy stands for. And that growing public roar, it's not going away. It's getting louder. It's moving through Parliament. And it's setting the stage for something we haven't seen in over 100 years, a royal title ripped away by the people who once embraced it. If there was ever a moment that proved how out of touch Prince Harry has become, with the mood in Britain, it was that BBC interview, supposed to be heartfelt, supposed to be honest. Instead, it came across as completely oblivious. The interview aired just hours after his appeal for taxpayer-funded UK security was officially rejected by the Court of Appeals. And what did Harry do? He doubled down. Said he wanted reconciliation, said he wasn't sure how much longer his father had, said they were in the trenches. But instead of sympathy, the reaction from British viewers was fury. Because while Harry played the victim, public saw a man living in a $29 million Montecito mansion, still using royal status for deals, still firing shots at his own family from across the Atlantic. And for those already fed up, that interview wasn't a cry for help. It was a slap in the face. Timing could not have been worse. It felt manipulative. And worst of all, it dragged Meghan right back into the spotlight. She's been carefully maneuvering around. Suddenly, the focus shifted back to both of them, and to the titles they still haven't let go of.
I would love reconciliation with my family. I don't know how much longer my father has. He won't speak to me because of this security. But it would be nice to reconcile. They don't want that. That's entirely.
Harry comes out and gives this interview in which he not only says he doesn't know how long the king has left to live,
I don't know how much longer my father has. He won't speak to me because of this security stuff.
which the royal family was like, hey, let's not talk about the king's mortality because you don't know, specifically because the king has refused to speak to you since February 2024. Now, that is over a year ago.
That single interview reignited every old wound. From the Oprah sit-down to Spare, the public was reminded just how much damage Harry's words have caused. Difference this time? There's no cushion of goodwill left. Even longtime supporters were shaken. It didn't feel like a prince seeking healing. It felt like a man still trying to have it both ways, bashing the system that made him famous, while demanding protection from the very institution he walked away from. And Meghan, she got pulled right back into the firestorm. Again. Suddenly, that podcast title slip-up didn't look like an oversight. It looked like a pattern. A royal couple still using their crowns to cash checks, still invoking their status for sympathy, but refusing to abide by the responsibilities that came with it. And while Harry may have thought the interview would soften hearts, it had the opposite effect. It hardened the nation's resolve. Enough. No more interviews. No more poor me. If he wants to live in America, fine. But using British titles to do it? Not anymore. With public anger boiling and Parliament already in motion, Harry's interview didn't just backfire, it may have sealed the deal. For all the talk of love, privacy, and starting fresh, the truth behind Harry and Meghan's post-royal life has become painfully obvious to critics. They didn't step away from the crown, they rebranded it. And that rebrand? It's built on one thing above all else. The titles. Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Her Royal Highness. The royal names follow them into every room, every media deal, every high-profile appearance. And that's exactly why Parliament is now accusing the couple of something far more serious than bad behavior. They're calling it title laundering. It sounds dramatic, but the logic is straightforward. Meghan and Harry left royal duties. They stopped representing the crown. And yet, they kept the names. And those names, unlike any Hollywood brand, carry centuries of prestige. They're meant to reflect service to the monarchy, not serve as shiny props for Netflix deals and podcast marketing. But in the years since Megxit, the royal branding has only grown louder. Duke and Duchess isn't just a courtesy title anymore. It's a business strategy, one that's made them tens of millions of dollars. Take a closer look at every deal. Netflix promoted their series as From the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Spotify did the same. Meghan's children's book, branded under her Duchess title. Even her Archetypes podcast comes with royal packaging.
There are growing calls to strip Harry and Meghan of their royal titles. The New York Post is reporting that locals in the UK say enough is enough, especially after Prince Harry's disastrous BBC interview, which aired hours after he lost his appeal for taxpayer-funded UK.
You're in America now, and we don't give a shit about you. You're not our fucking prince. You'll never be king. We hate your wife. Stay at home in your $29 million mansion, all right?
And behind the scenes, their representatives reportedly insist on the formal styling when arranging appearances. That's not a fluke. It's the foundation of the Sussex identity. Without those titles, they're just another famous couple with opinions. With them, they're a global fascination. Controversial, yes, but elite. And this is exactly what Parliament is now fighting to stop. Because if royal titles become tools for personal gain, especially for those no longer performing royal duties, then the entire monarchy's credibility is at risk. Titles aren't supposed to be monetized. They're not supposed to follow you onto red carpets and book jackets. They're granted to those who serve the crown, not undermine it on global streaming platforms. And Meghan's insistence on continuing to use hers, especially in subtle business contexts, is what finally crossed the line. To the British public, it's not just insulting, it's manipulative. Because every brand Meghan builds, every deal Harry signs, every platform they step onto with those titles, it sends one message: we walked away from the job, but we're still cashing the checks. And now, Parliament is saying it's time to close the account. There was no press conference, no big public statement, just a quiet shuffle of papers, a few murmurs across the chamber floor, and the quiet reawakening of a law most people forgot even existed. But make no mistake, Parliament is moving, and when the British political system moves silently, it often means something devastating is on the horizon. For Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, that something is the Titles Deprivation Act of 1917, a century-old statute designed to do one thing: strip royal titles from those who betray the crown. The last time this law was used, the monarchy was at war. Titles were taken from royal family members who aligned with Britain's enemies. Today there's no war in the trenches, but there is a cultural one. And for many inside Westminster, Harry and Meghan's years of public attacks, brand deals, and political flirtations have created a modern-day crisis of loyalty. They're not calling it treason, not legally, but the phrase being whispered is symbolic treason. And in the monarchy's world of optics and tradition, that's even worse. What makes this move so powerful is exactly how subtle it is. There's no screaming match, no televised showdown, just centuries-old protocol being followed to the letter. And it's spreading. Both the House of Lords and the House of Commons are reportedly exploring how to push the legislation forward, without the palace needing to lift a finger. That's the genius of it. Buckingham Palace stays silent, keeping its hands clean. King Charles avoids being the father who punishes his son, and Parliament carries the weight, the authority, and the accountability. Even more chilling, this isn't theater. The MPs behind the petition aren't doing it for PR. These are lifelong monarchists, defenders of tradition, and political veterans who don't take up battles unless they plan to win. And right now, they smell blood in the water.
Prince William, he's reportedly furious after it emerged that Meghan Markle is still using her HRH title, despite agreeing to drop the title when the Sussexes left royal duties.
I think Meghan Markle has been very brazen recently with the use of the HRH.
Meghan's continued use of the HRH title, despite an agreement with Queen Elizabeth, has handed them the ammunition they needed. The petition is real, the law exists, and the political will is building. What once seemed unthinkable, a royal title stripped not by scandal, but by statute, is becoming the likely endgame. No media spin, no dramatic confrontation, just a cold, quiet erasure by the very system Meghan thought she had outgrown. And if that paperwork goes through, Meghan won't even have a moment to respond. It will be done, signed, sealed, and irreversible. King Charles has said almost nothing. No statements, no gestures, not even the faintest pushback, but that silence, it speaks volumes. Because while the British public grows louder and Parliament gains momentum, Charles is doing exactly what insiders say he prefers, letting the system do his dirty work. He won't be the one to sign the decree, but he's not lifting a finger to stop it either. And for a father watching his own son get stripped of his last royal link, that passive stance is chilling. It's not hard to see why. Charles has been dragged through every layer of this saga, from Harry's memoir revelations, to Meghan's claims about racism inside the palace, to years of awkward public tension. His image has taken a brutal beating, and now that he's king, with an institution to protect, and a legacy to stabilize, Charles knows he can't afford another scandal tied to Harry and Meghan. But rather than intervene, sources say he's deliberately stepping back, giving Parliament the green light to act while he watches from the sidelines. This isn't cowardice, it's calculation. Charles has spent decades building up soft power within the monarchy, carefully managing his image and trying to modernize without shattering tradition. And right now, the last thing he wants is to look like a father punishing his son over a family feud. Instead, he's framing it as an institutional correction, not a personal vendetta. And if the title stripping comes through Parliament rather than the palace, he gets exactly what he needs: distance. But it's not just Charles who's watching. Prince William, according to royal insiders, has also remained publicly silent and strategically approving. Behind the scenes, he's reportedly more than content to see Meghan's HRH status revoked. No objections, no sympathy, just a quiet nod from the future king who sees this not as revenge, but as restoring order. So while Charles avoids the headlines and William stays tight-lipped, the monarchy is making its move. Not with drama, not with rage, but with centuries-old silence. Because in the royal world, silence is never neutral, it's loaded, and in this case, it may be the most brutal message of all. You've gone too far, and we won't fight you anymore. We'll just erase you, strip away the title, and what's left? That's the question echoing across both Buckingham Palace and Hollywood boardrooms. Because if Parliament succeeds, if Meghan Markle loses the HRH designation she's clung to in gift notes, contracts, and curated introductions, everything changes. No more royal branding, no more Duchess of Sussex shimmer at the start of podcasts or book jackets, no more unspoken leverage in high-profile rooms, just Meghan, And in an industry where perception is power, that may be the most devastating cut of all. This isn't just about a formality, it's about the foundation of her public identity. From the second Meghan and Harry stepped away from royal life, they didn't disappear, they repackaged. A Netflix mega deal, Spotify contract, memoirs, interviews, speaking gigs, all orbiting the same gravitational pull, royalty. Not as servants of the monarchy, but as brand ambassadors of rebellion. And it worked, until now. Because Parliament isn't interested in celebrity culture. It's interested in preserving the sanctity of British tradition. And right now, Meghan is seen as someone who's profiting off the very system she left behind. So what happens if the titles are gone? Meghan loses the illusion of royalty without ever setting foot in a palace again. No HRH, no formal connection to the crown, and no leverage to hold over a skeptical British public. And the irony? It was always heading here. From the Oprah interview to the lawsuits to the very public criticisms of the Queen, the institution, and even Kate Middleton, this wasn't a clean break. It was a scorched earth exit. Meghan and Harry didn't just leave, they burned the bridge and tried to sell the ashes. Now the crown is responding the only way it knows how, by cutting the power at its source. And the final blow? Silence. Parliament isn't ranting. The royals aren't speaking. This takedown isn't fueled by scandal. It's running on strategy. It will happen quietly through votes and legal language. One document, one clause, and then gone. Meghan may still have her followers, her press machine, and her platform, but without the title, she's not royalty. Not formally, not legally, not ever again. So now the question hangs in the air. If the title vanishes, what's left to sell? And in a world that's already grown weary of victim narratives and royal rants, that silence might be the one thing she can't overcome. The crown has made its move. And for Meghan Markle, this backlash may not just be final, it might be permanent. Grown weary of victim narratives and royal rants, that silence might be the one thing she can't overcome. The crown has made its move. And for Meghan Markle, this backlash may not just be final, it might be permanent. But what do you think? Should Meghan and Harry finally be stripped of their titles? Or is this Parliament taking things too far? And if the royal identity is gone, can their brand survive at all? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned.